Hello, guys. This picture's got nothing to do with my talk, but I kind of like it. Back in the 60s, Motorola.
You got your machine to work, you couldn't get any other MacBook Airs to work with that.
Huh.
You would imagine.
Yeah, it was back in the 60s, Motorola did a series of adverts about the future of television. And this is one of them, which I really like. I'm not sure how future it is, because they haven't got flat screens, but maybe they've got global warming, because that kid outside is like... I have a company called Berg in London. We used to be a design consultancy until a few months ago, and we made stuff like this. This is part of a looks-like prototype for Google of a video phone that we were designing for them. So we did a lot of work kind of behind the scenes for companies kind of understanding products for them. But in 2011, we started working on a slightly bonkers project, which I'll just kind of play this video while I'm chatting about it, called Little Printer, which was our first connected product. We had an idea for a platform for connected devices we wanted to make, and we came up with a bunch of like 20 different product ideas that like things we could make ourselves, you know, just our own product instead of being a consultancy. And this was the first thing we decided to make. And it's downstairs at the moment, printing out tweets which have pictures tagged ThingsCon, so you can check it out downstairs. But it's really more like, it's not like a little printer, it's more like a little fax machine. You have it at home, and your friends can send you messages and pics and stuff like that. And I thought what I'd do, rather than kind of, I don't know, talk about our real kind of design process or all the other bits of work, or anything kind of super abstract, I thought I'd just show you some pictures of factories. Because I'd never seen any pictures of factories before we decided to make this, and I wish I had. I don't know whether it would have changed what we did or not, but it would have made it all feel a lot less mysterious. Because to give you an idea, although this video came out at the end of 2011, and a year later we shipped 1,000, and over the next year we did another few thousand, very shortly before that video showing off Little Printer, it looked like this. And the journey between the two was quite interesting. This is our very first prototype, a Little Printer, so early that it doesn't even have a printer in it. What we've got is an Arduino on a breadboard, which is connected to the web. So we like going, you know, we're always like go to end as quickly as possible. So this is picking up information from the web to print out. And because we couldn't get a working printer at the time, we hooked up to a netbook, which was interpreting the same print commands. So it was kind of working as an experience, I guess, kind of in the same way. And we got all the way to this. So this is the award-winning packaging that Little Printer comes on. We didn't design the packaging. Well, visually designed it. Somebody else made it, and it came second, not first. But I guess like award-winning sounds better than saying all of that. So we did all of this. Quick hint, if you do make your own product, at the time you're designing your packaging, go and talk to FedEx, because the printer would cost about half to ship, had we not just strayed over the volumetric bounds of their pricing bounds. So there's a thing. Anyway, along the way, here's an early prototype of Little Printer. This one, the purpose of this model is to do something which has the right heft. So when we were doing design work, we always tried to do 3 different prototypes of products. We would do like a technical prototype, which kind of worked end to end. We would do a looks like prototype, which is something that had the kind of the same aesthetics and the same heft, so you could kind of feel how heavy it was in your hand. And the last thing we'd do is a works like prototype, so something that let us test the interaction design. Because these things are quite complex, right? You know, you've got a funny little gadget in your home which is printing out news at random times of the day, or when you press a button, that's going to feel quite odd. You need to test all these different things. So we would test them in lots of different colors and lots of different shapes. Because again, you just need to see what your response is to it. Just put it in front of you, see what it feels like to have, you know, I don't know. When you have a bright orange printer printing out like bad news from the New York Times, it feels very, very strange. It's still quite strange to have a cream one, which is what we went with, but for some reason that kind of feels okay. more prototypes. Here's one made out of solid metal. I quite like this one. This is us testing the testing the tooling to make sure the shape of the printer is correct. It's very easy to make a printer where all the paper snarls up inside, so we had to kind of make everything super high precision to make sure it worked. We couldn't use 3D printers for this. When our tolerances are really, really low, 3D printers wouldn't give us enough accuracy to kind of test the different ways of making the product, so we had to go and get it made in steel instead, which is a bit of a pain. This one is slightly more interesting, because at the front, you can see the kind of the printer where we're testing the form and kind of what it feels like to use. At the back, you can see the very first end-to-end prototype that we all took home. So this is a version of Little Printer that we had in our own homes, and we would send each other messages to see what it felt like. This is a thermal printer strapped to a Linux plug computer, and I think we only ever made 10 of these, and it sat in the shoebox. And it was that point we started realizing how weird and intimate Little Printer was. It's a very strange thing to be sitting at home at 10 o'clock at night, and one of your friends sends you a message that prints out directly into your front room. Like, it's a very kind of, I don't know, almost feels like somebody's kind of creeping into your home or something. Actually, I remember a time right at the beginning when Little Printer was still a prototype, and I had one in my house, and I was kind of testing it, testing different models, and I sent a message home to my then girlfriend, now wife, saying that I was on my way home, and I was on the bus, and it was a late day and everything, and I got home, and she was kind of ready to just kill me. She was really freaked out, and it turns out she was watching this. Do you know The Killing? Like that really kind of tense crime drama. She was watching on her iPad. Just at home in the dark, and it got to some really tense bit, and all of a sudden this kind of thing behind us started going and we made the mechanism a bit quieter after that. But it's funny how these things kind of happen. Like, just living with products is really important. Anyway, pictures. We decided to run our own supply chain, which was a bit crazy, but we have this idea that if we're going to be making products and telling people what we've learned from it and helping other people make products, we need to have gone through it all ourselves just once. So we ran our own supply chain. We manufactured the plastic and the metal in China, the electronics in Hungary and Slovenia. We do box build in the Czech Republic, I think, and we ship out to the UK. This is the CAD of the printer itself, but have a look on the right-hand side. There is the plastic hood that sits over the back of the printer. So it's like a cube with one face taken off. And it's kind of difficult to make something like that, because when you injection mold plastic, what you're basically doing is you've got kind of a big lump of metal, at the exact center of which is a cavity, which is the shape of the thing you're trying to mold, right? Like, obvious. But it has to work like a three-dimensional jigsaw, because when the plastic is cooled, you need to take the entire thing apart, take out the plastic piece that you've injection molded, take that out, put the entire 3D jigsaw back together and inject more plastic. And that has to work the same every single minute for days. So that was a pain. This is a picture of the tool that is used around that hood. To give you an idea of scale, this is a three-dimensional jigsaw, which is solid steel, weighs about 650 kilograms. And that is somewhere in our factory in Shenzhen. And here is the piece right in the middle where you can kind of see, I don't know, can you see just behind that green pipe, there are two things that look a bit like skis. Those are the orange legs of Little Printer. So the way this works is hot plastic is forced down that green pipe. Plastic, when it's molten at about 100 Celsius, is the consistency of toothpaste. So the plastic kind of is forced down that green tube around the pipes and goes up into the feet. You wait for it to cool, you take it out, all that kind of stuff. The nature of plastic leads to some weird problems. So this is, we made this stop motion animation of how that tool fills with plastic. So what we did is, just put a small amount of plastic in, waited for it to cool, take that out, a bit more in, wait for that to cool, take it out, and made this. And what we can see here is from the injection points at the back, how the tool fills up. leads to some weird problems because plastic cools slightly as it travels around the mold. And as it cools, it takes on different thicknesses. It has trouble kind of, if two bits of plastic kind of flow around each other and meet up again, they make a little ridge. Your main problem is that plastic, where it's thicker, cools differently to when it's thinner, which means that it bows slightly, which spent ages trying to diagnose. The top of the little printer here, you can kind of see the reflection of some blinds in the background. Can you see those? I don't know whether the image is good enough. Those reflections are supposed to be directly parallel. If they were parallel, that would be a completely flat surface to the product. They're not, which means the cooling has happened really badly, and the plastic itself is kind of sagging in the middle. Now, that's a real problem because it looks cheap. Generally, when products have that mirror flat finish, they get to be mirror flat because you've cooled it really slowly. If you cool it really slowly, that takes longer. It means you can get fewer items through the factory, which means you have to charge more. You can only afford to do that for expensive products. So just kind of subconsciously, we associate that mirror flat finish with premium products. The fat little printer wasn't doing that, meant that it looked cheap and we couldn't justify the price for it. So what did we end up doing? I think we ended up introducing an extra process into manufacture, which added like $1 a unit or something, but at least gave us that flat finish. But in the meantime, there was a bunch of this. Manufacturing took a really long time. I think from the time we announced we were doing the product, we thought it would take 5 months. It ended up taking 12. Here's a picture of our factory in Shenzhen. In my head, so there was a cartoon series when I was growing up called Big Bertha that was around on UK TV. And it was about a factory and the big kind of machine which made all the products. You basically poured in raw materials in the back, and then like magic happened, and products would come out the front. And for me, in my imagination, that's how factories worked. They were these kind of weird robotic things that just kind of made your product. And it turns out it's not like that at all. It's just big rooms full of kit, and every so often they wheel out your particular kit, and they run it for a few days, and people do that on your behalf, thousands of miles away, and then they put everything back again. It was a lot kind of grubbier and had more human intervention than I imagined. But it makes some good pictures, actually. So this is our plastic being made. Look at this. So this is the actual injection molding machine. And that's it coming out the back, so you can see it there. It has to sit there for about a minute to cool down, and then it eventually gets taken out. And they do that 1,000 times, and we have the backs of our printer. The electronics factory looks to me a bit more like what factories are supposed to look like. This is in where did I say, Slovenia. And all those machines along the side are robots, which are populating the printer circuit boards. I'll just quickly show you a picture of this. So those are the printer circuit boards, and this is the robot that puts the components on them. See, that's what factories should look like. Like, not enough of them do. Even this, there's a huge amount of human intervention in it. I mean, the amount of kind of just back and forth and chatting. The one advantage, I guess, in this whole process is this guy. Sorry, just in the middle there, you can see his back. The guy in the black T-shirt is a guy called Andy. He's a hardware producer. And he would go and visit the factory in China and the factory in Slovenia. And the guys in Slovenia would also always give him this kind of really gorgeous garlic sausage to bring back to the studio, which is very tasty. Eventually, we end up with all the different parts of the printer. And it has to be assembled, of course, by hand. To make the manual that these guys follow, that took us a few weeks. It's 34 pages of photos and instructions, all of these things can go wrong at different points. But it's a big manual of quality assurance, testing, assembly, how long you have to leave it so the glue is just sticky enough, or, as it turns out, that you shouldn't leave the glue for too long, because otherwise it stops working so well and all the legs fall off, which is what happened to a whole bunch from our first batch. It's a surprising thing to have to kind of do this and figure out what all the different things are that might go wrong. And I guess this is why people use contract manufacturers who are really experienced with it. But eventually it comes to kind of shipping day, which was very exciting. We kind of got people all over Instagram kind of making stuff with it. And the weird thing I would say about connected products, the thing that's different with connected products rather than kind of the old school ones where you just make it and it sits in somebody's homes, is that people can add more stuff to it afterwards. When we shipped Little Printer, it had 10 different things that people could subscribe to for content. It's now got almost 200, public ones at least. And the reason for that is that we kind of left, we left an open API to the printer. People can use the Web API, and if they can make, I don't know, if you can make a web page, you can make content that other people can subscribe to for Little Printer. So when it shipped, our job really wasn't done. The kind of things we expected people would make were things like this. So these are a couple of early publications that we shipped with. One is from a company called Lanyard, run by some friends. They were acquired by Eventbrite. And this would tell you which conferences you're going to the next day. So it was a kind of a useful thing to have in the morning. And at the bottom is some short-form science fiction from a kind of a hero science fiction author of mine called Jeff Noon. Actually, the kind of stuff that people made was more like this. This is Bumby's Jumbo Coloring and Rap Activity Book, which once a week gives you a rap artist to color in. And I think that was, we started kind of discovering those kind of things. This was another favorite. This is Monster of the Week. The guy who illustrates the Ricky Gervais book, Flanimals, started making this. It's a black and white monster that gets delivered once a week. And we realized this was, I don't know, like a thing when we started getting parents sending photos like this of the monster that their kids had colored in. So we started finding out that Little Printer was something that was really popular with families with little kids. For a couple of reasons. One was because it would print stuff that the kids would color in. The other was that the kids would get really delighted when their parents or friends sent them messages through the printer. So I said that kind of little fax machine kind of angle. And I think the third reason kids really like it is that Little Printer acts a bit like some kind of Tamagotchi. Every single time you print, the hair grows a little bit. So there's a button in the interface where you can cut Little Printer's hair. There are 2 boys and 2 girls. Their hair grows in different ways. And kids seem to kind of get quite attached to that. So about a year after Little Printer shipped, we ended up kind of changing the website and the marketing behind it quite a lot to focus more on this kind of messaging thing, more on the kids thing. And that's all going very nicely. A very, very peculiar device. I think the reason we did Little Printer right at the beginning was in order to learn enough about making like connected products so that we could offer a platform to other people to make connected products. And that's kind of works, right? So now we have a platform for that kind of thing. The thing I hadn't really expected was that whenever I went to talk to people and said, we can help you make your connected products, and I would show them, look, here's a product we made, and we would put it on the table and talk about how this is a product with a web API, and look, it's got a cloud platform behind it, and you can make it do this and make it do that. They wouldn't hear a word I was saying because they were staring at its face. And they were just like, ah. It has glasses. It was a peculiar thing. So we spent quite a lot of time just kind of trying to do really serious things, instead to kind of make people realize that we're like a sensible company as well. So I end up showing people a lot of pictures like this, which is my breakdown of the 4 different types of consumer Internet of Things. This is the technology stack of smart appliances. Here are the advantages of our platform. I'm not going to talk about any of this. We give things a web API, means you can do Wi-Fi in your Arduino really easily, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to talk about the platform. I was going to spend a few minutes talking about this. Instead, I want to show you 2 other connected things we've made, and then we'll just kind of wrap up, I guess. The first thing is I wanted to show you right at the beginning of this journey, which is kind of where we started this whole thing and the reason I kind of got obsessed about connected products in the first place. The reason why I think it's not to do with technology, it's to do with making things which are fun and kind of cause a little bit of delight. And this is the very, very, very first thing we tried to make back in 2000. Well, we made it in 2005. It got made public in 2006. And this failed as a product, by the way, just to cut a long story short. And is, you know, my secret mission at the moment is to make a platform to make making this product really easy, which is kind of just the explanation for everything else I've done in my career. Because I kind of really liked this at the time. This is a little product called Availabot, and it plugs into your instant messaging. If you remember, instant messaging was really big in 2006. Everyone used instant messaging. And it shows whether people are available or not. Because if you remember, people had PCs, right, in 2006. So you weren't always in front of your computer at home. So the fact that, you wanted to be able to talk to people when they were online, because if you remember, people weren't online the whole time. And it would show, this would represent one of your friends, and it would show you when they were online. And when they were online, you could kind of glance at it, walking past the room, so your computer, they're online, and you would sit down and you would have a chat. Actually, this is probably easier. I can just show you a video of this. So this is Availabot here. The head is 3D printed, by the way. So it looks like one of your friends. It looked like our friend Matt Jones, who had a quiff at a time. So it works with instant messaging. Nobody uses instant messaging anymore. Plugs into your computer by USB. Nobody uses USB anymore. There's the old name of our company, Schultz and Webb. Nobody can spell Schultz, especially when it's written Schulze, right? And nobody can spell Webb either, which is why we renamed to Berg. And let's see. It represents whether one of your friends is online or not. So let's have a look at it working. So here they are online. There they are on IM. They go offline. Responds. They're going to come online. See if you can guess what happens now. We were going to be billionaires. Hasbro actually licensed this for a couple of years. We decided not to let them carry on licensing because we wanted to make it ourselves. Turned out that was going to be really difficult. They thought it would do very well with 14-year-old girls. They would buy about 4 each. $15 each was going to be the product. We invented a new kind of motor to do this because the bill of materials was too low to allow servos. I think I calculated that even if we sold 1 million of these, Jack, my co-founder, and I would end up with about, I don't know, $160,000 between us. It's not $1 billion. Anyway, we tried to make this, and there were just too many moving parts. We couldn't project manage it. So there was like embedded software, and then there was software on the computer, and then there was software on the cloud, and then there was like talking to the instant messaging services. And all of those bits meant that we couldn't iterate the product. And I think it's something we're very used to on the web and with mobile apps is you can iterate and learn. It's definitely what we did with Little Printer, is it starts off as one thing, social media addicts, and then ended up being something else, something for families. And we've kind of learnt about it as we went. And the number of moving parts in Availabot meant we couldn't do that. The project got stuck, which is why we ended up doing this thing where we basically said there should only be 2 things, only 2 moving parts with these connected products. There's the device itself, which has a web API, and then there's websites, and everything else has to work like that. I'll show you one more thing, and then I'm done. So I said that everyone's very distracted by the idea that we make Little Printer and we make these kind of cute products. We tried to shift the world away from thinking of Berg as being like a whimsical, cute, only make thing with faces company by seriously, for years, everything we designed has a face. There's nothing wrong with that, but it did make it very difficult to do anything else. So we decided to make a washing machine. So this is, we did our own concept washing machine. This works, by the way. We have this running in the studio. We use it to wash the tea towels. We took a Zanussi washing machine. Actually, I'll let a video play while I'm kind of chatting. We took a Zanussi washing machine, and we hacked it open, and we reverse engineered its internal protocol, and we put it in the matrix. So it thinks it's just a regular washing machine, but actually it's part of our cloud platform. And we started kind of, doing things like we can get a notification to our phones now when it finishes doing a wash. But we used the fact that it had a web API to experiment with lots of different kinds of functionalities for it, and ended up designing ourselves a new kind of Internet of Things washing machine. Just by figuring out, kind of in the same way that we designed Little Printer, just experimentation, just kind of thinking through making approach, like what works. And then we ended up designing our own kind of perfect washing machine. And we made a video about it. And it's basically got kind of 3 things along the front of the machine. The thing on the left-hand side is presets. So you do all the kind of the really complex interactions on your phone. And then you put presets on the front of the machine. The next thing around is about setting a timer. So you can just kind of run the machine when you've already left for work, or you can kind of remote control, see when it's due to finish. So if you're late home from work, you can keep it on a rinse cycle until you get back through the door, which stops your clothes being stinky. And on the right-hand side, there's some buttons to let you buy detergent from the machine itself. So this machine doesn't monitor how much washing soap I have, but it does realize that the place I notice I've run out of washing soap is when I'm in front of the machine. And so it has a button there that when I press it, all it does is it sets a reminder for me or my missus to go and buy some more like Persil when I'm next walking past a supermarket, or it orders it directly from Amazon. So we kind of put this washing machine out there, and it's triggered all kinds of interesting conversations with people. Now, of course, the problem is that everyone thinks we're the washing machine guys instead of the products with faces guys. So there's kind of more work to be done there. But yeah, marketing, that's the thing. Anyway, I'll kind of wrap up with a pitch for train with a face. I think this thing ought to freak us out a lot more than it does. But, anyway, thank you very much.